There's no room for petty bull.
All right, welcome into Judd's Hockey Show. It's Zolgad, it's Declan Goff. I am at the X, in the bowels of the X as the press conferences are starting. We're actually trying something new here from a home game. We're starting as soon as the game ends, or as soon as I can get downstairs. Declan back at his home base. The Wild has just completed a game of which, my God, there are a lot of talking points. A 3-2 overtime win. Kevin Fiala ends it for the Wild with a power play goal from Zuccarello, who had a marvelous night, and Eriksson Ek at 15 seconds of the overtime period. And Dex, I actually don't want to start with the offense. I don't want to start with the 3 goals. I want to actually start off with the goaltending of Cam Talbot tonight. 7 consecutive wins now since the Marc-Andre Fleury trade. He's been absolutely outstanding. He stood on his head tonight. What did he have? I believe he finished with 40 saves. Several of them, 40 saves. Several of them grade A chances. He was off the charts good. And this is about as entertaining and as good as I have felt about a Wild team after a win in forever. I mean, I can't say enough about back-to-back nights, coming back, winning against Columbus last night, playing Colorado tonight, and absolutely, instead of saying, you know what, we're pretty damn tired, saying bleep that and getting 2 points.
Yeah, impressive, man. Very, very impressive win for the Wild tonight, all around. It felt like a playoff game. I see that in our YouTube comment section right now, that it felt like playoff hockey tonight. It did feel like playoff hockey. No scoring basically through the first 40 minutes of this one, and then the Wild were able to figure out a way to get on the board and grind it out, and they needed stellar goaltending. Darcy Kuemper, again, I think I'll credit you here. Darcy has been statistically great this season. Analytically, he's been great. Traditionally, statistics say he's been great, but he's a goaltender, in my opinion, that can also get rattled and get very, very easily rattled. And Cam Talbot, who, let's be honest, is not on the same level as Darcy statistically. Cam Talbot is not the same goaltender as Darcy Kuemper is in terms of how they'll probably finish in goaltending rankings if those things exist by the end of the year. But Cam Talbot was the better goaltender tonight. And Cam, just for whatever reason, has had this new stroke. And look, I don't think it's a coincidence that when Marc-Andre Fleury was plugged in here now 6 days ago, that it just gives you a different type of vibe in the locker room when you bring in literally one of the greatest goaltenders of all time to that room to help Cam. And look, Fleury was also awesome last night in another thrilling overtime winner at the X. So a lot of talking points to get to, but I agree with you. I think the main course of today's win, if you will, was the goaltending. Cam Talbot was phenomenal. They needed another great performance from him tonight, and they got it.
So there are games that have, and I mean, this has been true for 2 weeks now, which is, by the way, fantastic. There are games
Poor
that have
Furious too, by the way, Judd. Sorry,
just
to make you a little.
I got
jealous
one
there.
at home on ice for me, so when I get home, I'll be enjoying one or two before I hit the stack tonight. But Dex, we've been fortunate enough. I really feel like for the last 2 weeks or so, there have been a lot of playoff games. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sound of a surly furious. I mean.
Well, my Huskies lost, but I still know how to pour a beer, okay? So just because St. Cloud State didn't make it to the Frozen Four. And Moscow won, all right?
And good for him.
Bob,
I feel great for him.
Yes, awesome for him.
Or I'm happy for him, I should say. I'm very happy for him.
Yeah.
So we have been blessed, I feel like, throughout the month of March to have several Wild games that felt like playoff games, which is fun. I mean, that's incredibly fun. Tonight felt like, I'm going to take this up a notch. It felt to me like a playoff template, like a message was sent. And
interesting.
And by that, I mean, the Wild is a new team. Now, Colorado is both fast and through trades, because they've acquired guys like Josh Manson on the blue line. They are certainly a big team as well. But they, I think are a team that relies on their skill, because they've got more skill flat out than the Wild has. Now, I think we can now debate if Kaprizov is the best player on both teams. And yes, I'm talking about Nathan MacKinnon too, but Kaprizov is unbelievable. I mean, that's a debate. But anyway, I feel like the Wild sent a message tonight. The Eriksson Ek line and for the most part, Brodin Dumba defensive pairing were out there against McKinnon's line, and Eriksson Ek is a marvelous pest. Ryan Hartman was a pest, drew a penalty at one point on Cale Makar that he clearly frustrated Makar. Makar, I think, fell down. Hartman fell down. Hartman's stick was trapped. Makar got madder and madder, lost his cool, took a bad penalty. I also think with the Wild now, with their size, they can hit, they can slow you down. And you know what? The playoff template, Dex, if you're going to beat a team like the Avs in a long playoff series, includes this. Goaltender has to frequently stand on goaltender's head, which Talbot did. But I mean, I think we saw tonight what the Wild's plan would be. I think that they would like to give their goaltender more help, but the goaltender has to be relied upon to play like Talbot did, and he played that way. So I think we went from seeing a series of what feel like playoff games to actually the template for a lot of the way that the Wild would approach. Now, the only concerning thing, and I know it couldn't be fixed or it wasn't fixed, is the fact that both Colorado goals came directly because of face-off losses on a night where I think the Wild actually might have statistically held the advantage on face-offs. But I thought there were so many things from tonight's game to like win or lose, because it's how you're going to have to play a team like the Avs in the playoffs. And it also brings to mind again how close-knit and how galvanized it feels that this Wild team truly is.
Yeah, I felt like after the first two periods that clearly was going to be goaltending that's going to stand up. And then when Kirill gets the goal, that's what it reminded me of, Judd. I think we did a hockey show, I don't know, when is this? January, February, sometime this last New Year, where they went to Toronto. And I think I came on this podcast and I said I wanted to see more from Kirill Kaprizov. He was shut down. He just did not show up. Where was he? Marner was showing up. Toronto's stars were showing up. You go to Toronto to play the Maple Leafs, and I want to see our superstars show up against one of the better teams in the NHL. Tonight he showed up, right? Like tonight was, if this game would have ended 1-0 final, Kirill Kaprizov getting the only goal, that's the type of game that you're going to have a result of. Like, that's going to happen in the playoffs where it's going to be low scoring, but you need one of your superstar players to come through for you. Now, coincidentally, it's Fiala who gets the overtime winner. Kirill's obviously gets the scoring going. Cam Talbot was phenomenal tonight. And yeah, there was that playoff physicality. I know this is not a podcast that ever really crutches to bitching about refereeing. I did think refereeing was pretty atrocious tonight, and come playoff time, I hope these whistles are put away a little bit more. But these two teams have a long rivalry with one another, and they don't like to play each other. And I thought you could see that on the ice tonight a ton. And you need that extra type of grit. And look, if McKinnon wants to drop the gloves with anyone on this team, I will take him off the ice for 5 minutes. And yes. I get it. He was defending his guy. It was a big hit from Dumba. But if I'm Colorado's coaching staff, that'd be like Kirill dropping the gloves for the Wild. I mean,
that's Landeskog's job too. But
yeah,
he's out, and he's got he had, I believe, arthroscopic knee surgery within the past couple of weeks. Now he's expected back for the playoffs. But McKinnon definitely tried to take that role, which it's admirable in the fact that he's trying to defend Rantanen. It's stupid though, because I'm with you. If Nathan McKinnon wants to drop the gloves with anybody but Kirill Kaprizov, drop those gloves, baby.
Yeah, buddy.
And so I also saw the old, and I don't disagree with this across the board, because I thought that the Dumba hit on Rantanen was actually a great hit. Like, Rantanen put his head down. I mean, that's going to happen. So I thought that was a great open ice hit. And the result was McKinnon felt the need to fight a guy about what, in my opinion, was a clean but just really hard hit. And I know that frustrates hockey fans. But here's the key. If Nathan McKinnon gets mad about today being Sunday, I'll take that. Like, whatever it takes. Again, you need to, and tonight's game needs to set the tempo or tone, and they're going to play one more time here before the end of the season, and you need to go about getting in their heads. So if Nathan McKinnon's mad because he's Eriksson Ek is going to, I honestly think, and I hope to God that these two teams meet in the postseason, but I honestly think that Eriksson Ek in a long series against the Avs and McKinnon's line will drive McKinnon as crazy as Wes Walz did to Peter Forsberg in 2003. Yeah. I think he's going to have Nathan McKinnon climbing up the wall. Doesn't mean he won't score a goal or two, but it means this. The more that you're in his head, so the more that he's upset because he can't move, and so now his guy gets laid out and he's pissed off, right? and he's going to fight. That's what you want. And look, this is not, to be very, very clear here, this is not a referendum on fighting, okay? The reality of the playoffs is, with or without actual fisticuffs, if the Wild's going to beat the Avs, they need to physically punish them. It's like a football game. In fact, the comparison that I would make to sort of take it away from, because I think when we talk about beating teams up, people sometimes think about fighting. The comparison I would make is, I think that the Wild in a playoff series against the Avs would have to be what the 49ers were in the playoffs to the Vikings. They physically whipped them. Like the Vikings in that playoff loss, the Vikings were just outclassed physically. The line, both the defensive and offensive line, beat the Vikings to a pulp. And that's what the Wild can do now too, because of the trade. So I think that's the better comparison. It's not literally fighting. It is. And if the Avs choose to try to fight, you know what you do? You say thank you. And you take the only thing I don't get is how, and I got this question on Twitter, how did McKinnon not get the instigator? Because he went, I mean, Dumba threw a clean hit. Yeah. And he jumped him, which is his right. But I think I think the instigator's there for that fact, right? Like the rule's built in, so you can't. So if you choose to jump a guy, you're going to give up a power play.
Yeah, I can't make a cross-sport comparison that off the top of my head of what it would be like. But what I do know is there's evidence of the Wild frustrating very top-heavy and talented Colorado teams. They did it to Granado, obviously, in 2003. I was a young pup, but still that was one of the greatest formulas to winning a series in a long, long time, right? They did it to Patrick Waugh, who was this unorthodox and out-there head coach in 2014. And Jared Bednar, he's probably the most suited of those three to be an NHL coach, so this isn't to disrespect Jared at all. But also, like, let's look at the evidence here. Colorado was first in the league last year, right? Or second in the Central, I should say, but a team that had a ton of points. Right. They're first in the West, off to the races this year. The pressure's on for him right now. Yeah. So Dean Evason would definitely, like, if you were doing the tails of the tape, as they always like to do at the beginning of a playoff series, you would probably give the slight edge to Bednar over Dean Evason just because of experience, because Bednar has almost 400 games in his NHL coaching career. But I do think Dean can come up with a chess match to beat these guys and shut them down. And I don't know if Bednar has the counterpunch of a coaching side. I think Colorado's team side has that in them because they're insanely talented and very loaded. But can Dean Evason, and maybe to a degree a little bit Bill Guerin, because I know coaches coach and managers manage, can they come up with a formula to beat Bednar in a playoff series? And I think you saw, for the most part tonight, that on display of you can frustrate these guys. And yes, they're without Landeskog, big loss there. Obviously, he tilts the series a little bit more if he was a healthy player. But can Dean come up with a situation to out-chess Bednar? And I think he can. He can.
Coaching is no question, and I thought that it played a role. Now, make no mistake, Cam Talbot was the star. Tonight he was the star. Yep. 40 saves, several great saves. But yeah, I think that the key here is can you come up with a plan going into a series against the Avs that sort of dovetails off what we saw tonight? And I think that the answer is yes. Now the question is because I truly believe, and we have seen this previously from the Avs, including when they lost to the Golden Knights last spring. You can frustrate McKinnon. You can get in his head. And so I think that's possible. So then the counterpunch is, okay, can they shut down Kaprizov? We saw that. The Golden Knights did that last spring before they played the Avs against Minnesota. So all of those things. But yeah, I think that what we got tonight was a really fun, fantastic preview of the chess match, the back and forth. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Wild and the Avs to a certain point didn't show everything that they would do, but I feel like we got a taste of it. I feel like we got a large dose. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you right now, sports wise, I'm in love. Like I was watching that game. Look, I get down on teams in this town when I feel they screw the pooch, and they do often. Okay. But when there's excellence, and I got a note on Twitter, I tweeted something about Cam. because Cam had a great game. And I got a note back saying, typical Zolgad, you are trying to stir the controversy pot with Fleury and Talbot. Just enjoy this. And I honestly sent the guy a note back, and I said, that never crossed my mind. This team is close. Marc-Andre Fleury is, and I've said this 1,000 times now, I feel like a broken record, beloved. Like, players love him. I don't think Cam Talbot's threatened. I think Cam Talbot's motivated, which is awesome. If Marc-Andre Fleury came here and was a jackass, yeah, it's a problem, but he's not. He fits in perfectly. And so I don't think that there's a controversy. I think that what we're potentially seeing now is two guys duking it out and playing great. And, you never start the playoffs saying, oh, boy, I wish one of our goaltenders would start to suck. Like, you don't say that. So, no, I'm in love with the prospect of the fact that I think for the first time, and I didn't consider this back then because the team had zero expectations. I think for the first time since that 2003 run, I actually see a team that is built for and has just made moves that scream playoffs. And it's not that you brought in all big names. You brought in a defenseman who fits. That doesn't mean he's great, but he definitely fits. And now you're scratching a defenseman once per game. You brought in a wing who didn't play late in Delorier because he's not a guy who plays, late in games and scores goals. But you know what he does? He provides a presence. So I really think that to execute a plan, Declan, that Dean Evason would have for a playoff series, you have to have the personnel in place. It can't be like, we're going to try and execute our plan of being big while we're not big.
Yeah.
The important thing here is I think they can have the plan because they've got the personnel, and I am absolutely enthralled by this. This is make a run. I hope you do. It'd be great. And what we saw tonight was thrilling, I thought.
Couple housekeeping things. We have like almost 750 people watching us right now on our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button.
Thank you.
For Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment, this is Score North. That's Judd Zolgad. I'm Declan Goff. Mackie and Judd. The Hockey Whisperer is formulating his takes as we speak in the Pacific Northwest.
He's going to have to weigh in tomorrow.
I think the crystal ball will make its debut on Mackie and Judd. So if you're not familiar with us, and if you're discovering us for the first time, hit the subscribe button. For all of us who do support us, we appreciate you guys. And this show, by the way, turns in actually to a vent line show during the postseason. So if you watch Purple Daily, we bring fans on during Vikings games, and we have us talk about the games. We're going to do the same thing during the NHL playoffs. So if when the playoffs actually start, Judd and myself will bring you on the screen with us. We had a blast doing it last year. We really got to connect with a bunch of fans who had discovered us for the first time, and we're really excited to do that again once the playoffs start again. Before I get to my next point, though, Judd, I will say when it's playoff hockey time, and I'm watching this go back and forth, I am just so thankful that I have my Chill Boys on, because if I didn't have my performance brand on, I can tell you right now, there's some guys on this team that have the bamboo fabric, and they're comfortable, and it's fine. But there's some guys like Cam Talbot who have the performance brand on, and he is ready to rock, and he's comfortable in his Chill Boys. It's some Minnesota-based company. Check them out, chillboys.com.
Amen, brother. They are fantastic, and they are the one thing that Chill Boys, Surly, they are always at the top of their standings.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know about our teams, but we know about those folks.
I was talking to a buddy yesterday it was in the middle of the game yesterday, and he said, do you feel like we're maybe still wasting Joel Eriksson Ek's talents on that bruising line? And he didn't mean it as he should be playing top line minutes, but when it comes playoff time, right, and he's been doing this grind for 82 games, you get broken down, right? Like, you get beat up, and Ek's playing a role where you get your ass kicked, and you're getting sticks, and you're getting pulled in places you don't like to be pulled. And does eventually that wear you down, and would you rather use that chip, in Ek somewhere else throughout the lineup?
Sure.
And personally, I disagreed with it. Hartman is not this perfect center, but my God, he continues to score goals, and he's going to potentially score 30 by the end of the season. And Joel Eriksson Ek still has such an important role with Greenway and with Foligno, and clearly management likes these three dudes together. Like it or not, because I know Ek got some run as the top line center at the beginning of this season, I don't think it was a bad fit. It just wasn't a good fit. It just didn't work. And this line that's constructed right now, and Ek and Greenway and Foligno, and then even how well, by the way, the fourth line's playing with Delorier and Tyson Yost, both those guys are playing a role. So I understand, every team is basically one injury away to a core player in their top 9 that makes you, take an extra breath of fear that if we lose this guy, it's going to be a long playoff series. But his role in that spot is integral. And I wouldn't be that, I would be pretty shocked. It would take, I think, monumental changes or injuries necessary, probably is the more likely path for them to take Ek off of that line from Foligno and Greenway.
So we talked about this a lot last season, and I think we both agreed that Ek should be taken off that line and put with like Fiala or Kaprizov. And I think at our time, certainly our intentions were good and our thinking seemed clear. In retrospect, though, I don't know why, but this line fits. They have found a line that fits. And so Eriksson Ek, too, is never going to be something he's not. And by that, I mean, I think I always thought that he would turn into a flashier playmaking guy for like a Kaprizov or something. The reality is his game is suited to grinding. His game is suited to being a gigantic pain in the ass of good opponents. The way that they worked against that McKinnon line was absolutely imperative to tonight. So, okay, let's take him off that line. That line, we know if any component from that line, whether it be Foligno, Greenway, or Ek, is removed, it's not the same, right? So his ability to grind, frustrate, but still possess some skill is what makes him special. Now, it's not over-the-top skill, but he makes some nice plays. Also, I believe he leads the team, if I'm not mistaken, with 10 power play goals. Now, he was taken off the power play oddly for a few games. He's back on now. But watch how he scores goals, too. And this is the difference from when I was a kid, it feels like. It feels like when I was a kid, the center was the playmaker. The center was a guy who was basically had his role. Eriksson Ek on that power play provides a net front presence that is sort of like what Willie Plett, who was a big bruising winger, used to do. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine the day, but back in the day when you would have asked Bobby Smith, "Hey, Bobby, we want you to be net front presence." He would have said, "Go bleep yourself. I'm going to create plays and score nice goals." Mike Modano, "Hey, Mikey, can you be the net front presence?" No, go bleep yourself. So Eriksson Ek, I don't understand it, but I know it. He is in the perfect role. And if that's going to shorten his career, that's his career, man. I think part of the thing, too, is the Eriksson Ek role used to be played by true grinders, right, Dex? Like the grind guy. I don't get paid a lot, but I grind, and sometimes I fight, and I go in the corners and blah, blah, blah. This game has changed so much. It's so much more skilled. It's so much faster. It's so much different that I think we have to accept the fact that Eriksson Ek's skill set exceeds what used to be considered a grinder, but he is, in my opinion, a modern-day grinder. Keep in mind, Marcus Foligno, if he had played in the 80s, would have been a superstar. Probably would have scored 50 goals because you didn't have to skate as well. His skill set, he would have been the net front guy. This game's just changed. And you know what? It's more fun now. But I'm with you. I don't think a year ago, I think we both thought what your friend said, which is, are you sort of wasting X skills? Like, he's a good center. Like, shouldn't he be making plays? Yeah. The reality is no. And this also, Declan, goes back to what we talked about, I think, the last JHS. Dean Evason, if you look around this league, Dean Evason is leaving lines alone like very few do now. This is what you did in the early 80s. Like, we got a line. Lines now are broken up in game. Lines now are broken up constantly. And if you look at the continuity that these guys have on their lines, which, by the way, seems to work well, more power to them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I am very, very comfortable with the fact that I think we can agree now, which is a large pivot from where we were 12 months ago, that Eriksson Ek and that line actually do belong as one, and that trying to get cute didn't work out.
Right. When we first got to look at Middleton, what was that, on Thursday, I believe? That was before this was now his third game, I think, with the Wild.
Yes, it was Thursday.
And, that it was a little clunky with Spurgeon. Personally, watching him from TV, I know you've been at the last two games here tonight and then yesterday in these overtime fillers. I do think there's something that works there with Spurgeon. He's definitely Middleton's not a flashy player, but I think his presence and size when it comes to playoff hockey that's where he'll make his money. That's where the fit, I think, works really, really well with Jared Spurgeon.
Yes, and I thought that the fit with Spurgeon didn't work on Thursday because I think in retrospect now, Middleton was so nervous because he didn't play well. He looked like he couldn't skate well, and the last 2 games he's not fast. I'm not trying to insinuate that, but he definitely looks more at home. So yes, I agree. Now today was very intriguing because of this too, and I think they've found the right combination and formula. I don't know if they can commit or will commit to this. So on the night that Middleton debuted against the Canucks, Kulikov got scratched, which I'll admit really surprised me. I don't think he's done anything. I've never seen him play and thought, yeah, he should sort of be scratched. I didn't expect a ton, and I think he's good. Saturday night, John Merrill got scratched, and you could see the writing on the proverbial wall. Tonight, Alex Goligoski got scratched. Now, the interesting thing about Goose is this. He has played in 982 National Hockey League games over his 15-year career, okay? The Wild tonight was their 19th to last game of the season, meaning they have 18 games left when they play the Flyers on Tuesday at the X here. Alex Goligoski has 982 games in. That means if he doesn't play in one of those last 18 games, that he's going to end the regular season 1 game shy of 1,000, which in hockey terms, the 1,000th game is like a religious experience. Like,
yeah, it is.
They give out
they get the gold stick.
Gold-plated stick.
We've been to a few, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm not denigrating it, but what I am saying is this. I thought the 6 defensemen tonight were really well set. Like, I liked those 6. Goose's play, which started off great, hasn't looked great. I certainly don't think he's going to be scratched for the next 18 games, but I am curious about what the plan is. And furthermore, if they do get him to 1,000 games, are we going to get to playoff game 1? And he's going to be, because at that point in time, you would definitely just go with your 6 best. At that point in time, is Alex Goligoski, going to be the odd man out?
Yeah, I think it's trending that way. It's going to be a hot hand. Whoever is playing, who wasn't playing the best is going to be the one that gets bumped out. Now, Goose has, as they like to call him, has played in a bunch of playoff games. So he has a little bit of advantage over Merrill. And Merrill, I think, has had a cup of coffee with Vegas, so he's played in a few himself as well. But Alex has definitely probably the more playoff experience. So I wouldn't be surprised if he figures out his way back in the lineup regularly towards the end of the season that he is still that last guy in, because they're gonna want that veteran experience potentially on the ice. But I mean, after what you and I both said in the first month of the season, hey, you know what? Goaltender looks great. This turns out to be a nice little signing.
With Spurgeon for quite a while there, too, so he was top defensive pairing.
And I don't know what it is, but ever since basically the new year, his game has fallen off a cliff. Merrill regressed a little bit. Kulikov, to a degree, regressed a little bit. But of all of them, it was probably Goligoski's that fell off the cliff the most, which was surprising, I think, probably to all of us, right? Just considering his pedigree and considering who he was in the first few months of the season. So I would bet that he probably does draw in on game 1. I would bet he draws in on game 1 of a playoff series. I don't think he'll remain scratched. But look, it's hard to take guys in and out of this lineup right now. Obviously, when you have won 7 consecutive games, and I think the goalie tandem itself in Fleury and Talbot. Someone say, well, yeah, why are they even pulling Cam? Why even give Talbot a break? No, this is the beautiful luxury you get to have. You get to have Cam Talbot spell Marc-Andre Fleury, or Marc-Andre Fleury spell Cam Talbot. That it's a completely different beast there. So I would imagine, just giving his playoff experience, and it's cliched, but that he figures out a way to stay in the lineup when they begin a playoff series. But he definitely still could be that first man out. I was going
to say, though, I mean, do you scratch Merrill then? Because I don't know that he deserves to be scratched. It's sort of an interesting thing, though, because I thought tonight was actually, the pairings were almost perfect. And so I'll be curious now, just until we get to the end of the regular season, if they do go to a system that allows Goligoski to play to get to 1,000 games, or if they did decide it's not worth that, which would be a big decision. Here's the weird thing. So I'm all for doing what's best for the team, and I think that that's obviously the mission statement now here. And I do think that the GM is the GM now. It's not a defenseman or a winger, and I do think that the coach is the coach. It's not a consultant that's brought to Braemar to practice the power play. All of that being said, part of this team being close means that they're not just close. I think that they're friends, and I think getting Goligoski to 1,000 games is probably internally important to the team, which might sound weird. So, like, I think it's a fine line. It's not just, if Goligoski were a bad guy, it'd be like, okay, screw him. Who cares, right? But I think he's liked. And when you're liked and when you're on the precipice, and we don't know if he's going to continue to play for a long time, we don't know if he's going to play a 16th year next year. That partially is probably not up to Alex Goligoski. So, like, it's a very it's a tightrope here. It's not just an obvious, because the old school team, I would have just scratched him and been like, screw him. I don't care about him. Like, if this was half of the old team, I'd be like, yeah, just scratch him. But I think it's different now. I want to talk to you about one thing that I absolutely loved about tonight, and this can extend to a conversation about what we saw from Marc-Andre Fleury on Saturday. A lot of people thought the Wild would get decimated because they played at 7 o'clock last night here at the X. They won a tough game against a non-playoff team in the Blue Jackets. A fun game. Spurgeon scores. OT. Fleury, I believe, makes what, Dex? 23 saves, something like that. Didn't make a ton of saves, but he played well. And people thought, okay, Colorado Sunday, 5 p.m. start. It's a quick turnaround. The Wild is going to get waxed. I love the fact that they were forced to do this and confront that. I think that that is the greatest thing. And the fact they won, damn impressive, more impressive. But again, this was a test. This is a mental test that you had to play. You had to go from playing a non-playoff team in Columbus on an exciting night, Flower debuting. That was great. But then you have to pivot. And here come the big bad Avs. And I thought it was perfect. If you're Bill Guerin or Dean, I think you're thrilled. Not that you just won, but that you got the opportunity to say, okay, guys, nice win, but. And that's where Talbot standing on his head is great, because this gets back to your point. Got two goaltenders. Yeah. Two goaltenders who are going to be competitive, who probably are friends by now, but they're going to be competitive as hell in performance. That's great. Like, do you know how long it's been since we can talk about this team hitting on cylinders that didn't used to exist here? Yeah. Hey, Dubes, you're not going to play tonight. I'm not. What's wrong with that? Why am I not playing? Why is Stalock playing? Hey, Ryan, yeah, we need you to play more. Oh, I'm not playing enough? Yeah. How many minutes am I logging right now? I'd like to log more. All that BS is out the window. We're now talking about...
there's no room for petty bull.
But I mean, that's thrilling. Yeah. That's an absolute thrilling thing. So I think as fun as last night was, I love the fact that they had to come back overtime, pretty emotional game, and had to get right back to playing not just a team, but the team that they are almost certainly going to have to try and get through. You couldn't have scripted a better scenario of, okay, this is going to be tough. How do you react? And they reacted, I thought, absolutely perfectly, including being dead ass in the second period until what, Dex?
Oh, God.
6.5 left or so. They had like one shot on goal. They were dead. And I thought they're in huge, but Talbot was playing great. Mm-hmm. And they looked like they were absolutely dead in the water. And with about 6.5 minutes left in the second period, I don't know what happened. The switch got flipped. It turned. It was really impressive.
Yeah, it was. And you need these kind of performances to get the belief back that you're a playoff hockey team and that you're a cup contender. And for them to go out there and do that, I think tonight was a big testament to this group. And yeah, I thought same thing. I mean, just the first 40 minutes in general, I was like, man, this is you can tell that this team played, less than 20 hours ago. Like, this is sluggish. It's not fun. And you can only keep that Colorado team down for so long before they're basically an earthquake and will erupt. And so obviously they were able to still battle back because they almost lost it in the third period there. But it was pretty interesting. I did watch the Colorado Avalanche broadcast, Judd. That'll might shock you.
And
I mean, they're over the top and ridiculous. There's one thing of being a homer, right? Like there's there's one thing about being a homer, but you're a little passive aggressive about it. I won't name names. And then there's other homers that are just, hey, we are better than you, and we think we're better than you, and we're not passive aggressive about it. We're right in your face about it. That's the Colorado Avalanche broadcast. And I mean, when they scored the overtime winner, you would have thought, and I think it's Mazer, right? I forget the play-by-play voice. I've been to funerals that have more life at the eulogy. I mean, my God, it was quiet. And Fiala scores off the faceoff dot, and Colorado will earn 1 point this evening. It was like that's it. That's it. I just call it down the middle. So I thought that was very interesting. And I forget their like color guy, but they were doing this bit where he was like being locked in areas, and even like Julie in the press box like played along with it on camera, like was part of a skit on there and stuff. And the whole thing was very strange. I'm all about watching these other. I started doing this last year, and I was really getting into all these other opposing broadcasts. This one, it was Altitude Sports, I believe, is what puts on Colorado. Yeah. It was weird. It was
Canadian
really weird.
National broadcasts. That's where it's at. Little TSN, Sportsnet.
Oh my God!
Every time, those are the ones to watch.
Anytime we get Sportsnet, yes.
They dissect the Vancouver Canucks in the crosshairs every night, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, the Sportsnet and the TSN is supreme. It is.
I am looking at Nathan McKinnon's statistical line from tonight's game, and do you know what the biggest number by his name on his statistical line? What category it falls in?
I'm gonna go with plus minus.
There's a -1. No, penalty minutes 5.
Mm-hmm.
Take it every time. That's
all
I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Quickly, your thoughts on the debut of Marc-Andre Fleury last night, because it was fun. The guy barely would touch the puck to make a save, and the crowd would go nuts. But it was a lot of fun. I think his tenure here is going to be really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, Columbus isn't an offensive juggernaut, and so he didn't see a lot of shots. I think just 22 saves in that performance. But key saves. Key opportunistic saves, and that's the Flowers a flashy goalie, right? Like he's not afraid to move around a little bit there, be that butterfly, and make the sexy save here and there. I thought it was very impressive. That's exactly the kind of guy you needed tonight, and for them to get that kind of performance from Flower, I mean, that's it. That's exactly what you need. He's won cups, dude. This is that second round pick, gravy. I'll take that every time. And if it turns into a first, that means the Wild had a successful run to the playoffs. So, I thought Flowers' performance was impressive. Personally, Judd, I am a little bummed because I felt like 6 saves shorts of a home run, and write that down. And as you know, I like to make things about me sometimes on our platforms.
I don't really care about that.
So everything else hit in my parlay. Kids, don't bet on parlays, because then you get burned like Declan Goff here. But in general, outside of my personal beliefs, I thought it was a very impressive performance from Fleury.
Yes, and as Travis points out in our comments, the Wild is now 5 points ahead of the Blues. Nashville has actually passed the Blues for third place in the Central. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, the Wild is 4 points up on the Predators and 5 points up on the Blues, who are now in wild card position 1. And that means if the playoffs were to start today, and I think we can say that now because of the fact that we are only 18 games from the regular season being done. If the playoffs were to start today, the Wild would host Nashville in the playoffs. And despite the fact that when they started this homestand with 6-1 loss, just a bad loss.
Yeah, that's right.
This team, I think, is very different from that team. And if you were to play the Preds, it would be tough, but I think it is doable. And can I tell you one more thing, Dex? Can I tell you about one more thing? Yeah. I want to talk about for those who at least are viewing this on our YouTube channel, Judd's Hockey Show, and we certainly appreciate that. My friends at Livia Weight Control Centers, because if you saw me last year when I was railing against the fact that Eriksson Ek was not on a different line, my face was fat. I had a big fat face, and you know why? Because I was carrying around too much weight. Well, let's just say that problem has been solved, and I am now down from approximately 240 to 201 pounds. Wow. And I want you to join me today. Get 25% off the program plus 35 meals for free. That's right, 25% off the program plus 35 meals for free by going to livea.com, livea.com, or by calling 855-GO-LIVEA. The best part, you can choose in person to come and meet with them. They're obviously have locations throughout the Twin Cities, or if you're outside the state, you jump online and meet virtually. So whether you're inside or outside the state, Livia will work for you like it worked for me. Livia, Livea.com. Check them out. And yes, I can now participate in a playoff series. And well, I'd probably get beat up, but that's fine.
That's okay.
Anyway, tell the folks what they need to know, and we'll wrap things up here, Declan.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button right here on this YouTube channel. It's Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. That's Judd Zulgad. I'm Declan Goff. We try to do a few live post-game shows a week right here on Judd's Hockey Show, which you can find. It's its own podcast feed on Apple, on Spotify. We have the Score North app, which is a central hub for everything we do. We have listener rewards is there as well. We give away tickets. We have Judd Zulgad's comments. We have plenty of things to give away on the listening rewards tab. So download the Score North app. It's on Apple. It's on the Google Play Store, whatever cell phone you have. And hit the subscribe button right here on this YouTube channel. Mackie and Judd back tomorrow, back at full strength, as we like to say on a Monday. Purple Daily, Daily Minnesota Vikings Entertainment. Yes, the Vikings never sleep. That's a 7-day-a-week Minnesota Vikings podcast show that Judd Zulgad, Phil Mackey, and myself help contribute to. So hit the subscribe button there as well. And as we do, we've been doing this now for the last few weeks after going many podcasts without having to do it. We play one clip to wrap up.
Listen, you guys know what this is all about, right? Right? What's it all about? Spurgey?
Hard work and having fun.
That. This is about winning.